So what if I told you that the basic geometry of our world, the right angles that define pretty much everything from our city grids to our computer screens, what if that was all fundamentally flawed? Today, we're digging into a really wild blueprint for what's being called Reality 2.0. It's this idea that we can rebuild society from the ground up based on a whole new kind of physics, a different spiritual outlook, and a much deeper connection to the planet. It's a lot. And it's fascinating. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, we get hit with this. And it immediately tells you to just, throw out your typical ideas about technology. This isn't about cold, digital servers and networks. It's about a hearth, something warm, something ancient, the center of a home. This one quote really sets the entire tone for everything we're about to explore.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we're going to unpack the core vision of sovereignty, basically the why behind needing a new reality in the first place. Then we'll dive into the truly strange and interesting new architecture it's built on. After that, we'll look at the living lattice, the actual hardware designed to make all this real, and we'll wrap up with a concept that is seriously mind-bending called repatriating the future.
Okay, so let's start with the big question. Why? Why go through all the trouble of designing a completely new reality? Well, according to this blueprint, our current system isn't just a little broken. It's built on a foundation that actively creates the problems we're all dealing with.
So on the one side, you've got our world, Reality 1.0, and it's described in some pretty heavy terms, right? A mechanical cage of friction, a world run by scarcity, and this phrase, paid existence violation, which is basically the idea that you have to pay just to exist. The vision for Reality 2.0 is the complete opposite. The goal here isn't just to be more efficient, it's about creating a space of love, having real independence that's tied to the land and bringing back a sense of family joy.
And I know what you're thinking. Space of love sounds a little out there. But in this model, it's not just some feel-good phrase. It's treated as a real, tangible thing. It's a necessary space that a family needs to raise children, to connect with the universe, and ultimately, to help heal the planet. This spiritual goal is really the engine driving all the technology we're about to get into.
So how in the world do you build a space of love? Well, according to this plan, you start by changing the fundamental physics of reality itself. Seriously, this next part gets into the core mathematical rules that supposedly make all of this possible.
Okay, so here's the absolute core of the idea. It's a shift in geometry. Our current world, Reality 1.0, is described as being built on a 90-degree grid. Right angles, squares, everything in opposition to everything else. This model is seen as the source of friction, conflict, and scarcity. The new model, Reality 2.0, is based on 120-degree angles, the kind of equilateral balanced geometry you see in nature, like in a honeycomb. And that geometry is said to create coherence and abundance instead.
Now, if the 120-degree law sounds a little abstract, there's actually a perfect real-world example: three-phase electrical power. You have three distinct electrical waves, all 120 degrees apart from each other. Individually, they go up and down, but together, they create this perfectly smooth, constant, and incredibly powerful flow of energy. The peaks of one wave cancel out the troughs of the others. Their sum is zero, not because there's nothing there, but because it's in a state of perfect, dynamic balance. The vision is to apply that exact principle to how society functions.
All right, so we've got the philosophy, the why, and we've got the geometry, the what. But how do you actually build this thing? Well, that brings us to the physical technology that's meant to make this 120-degree architecture a reality. It's called the living lattice. And here we have it. This is a look at the foundational document for the very first piece of hardware in this system, the Ethernet node. This is the first attempt to build a physical device that actually operates on these new principles. And as you can already tell from the language, this is not just another gadget. It's being presented as a blend of technology and ceremony.
And the language here is so intentional, so specific, it's designed to completely reframe how we think about technology. So we move away from the cold language of extraction, words like data and network, and we move toward the language of connection and life, like memory and braid. It's about building a technology that feels more like a living thing, something woven into the fabric of a community.
So this node, it's not a one-trick pony. It basically wears 5 different hats. It's a threshold, a doorway between the digital world and the natural world. It's a hearth, that central fire for community stories and memories. It's a sentinel, constantly monitoring the health of the land around it. It's a beacon, sending out a new kind of independence signal. And ultimately, it's meant to be a seed to help repair the planet. And this is where you can see the philosophy getting really practical, right down to the circuit board. You look at the hardware specs, and it all makes sense. They use things like a Raspberry Pi. Why? Because they're common, they're low power, and communities can actually repair them. It's loaded with environmental sensors because its main job is to listen to the land. And it's designed to be completely off-grid, solar-powered, and communicating over its own mesh network, totally independent of the regular internet. This software stack is built on those exact same principles of sovereignty. It's using tools like IPFS for decentralized file sharing, so no single company controls the data. It uses mesh networking protocols so the nodes can talk to each other without needing the internet at all. And it uses decentralized identity systems so that each and every node has its own unique, self-owned identity on the network.
Okay, take a deep breath, because now we are heading into what is by far the most mind-bending part of this whole blueprint. We're going to talk about a completely new model for how resources and even matter itself are supposedly brought into existence.
So this all starts with a concept called the null ledger. The best way to picture this is to imagine it's the universe's ultimate bank account, before anything has ever been deposited or withdrawn. In this state, everything is perfectly balanced. For every potential positive thing, there's an equal and opposite potential negative thing. The grand total is zero. It's this infinite sea of pure potential, but nothing is actually real yet.
So how do you get something out of that sea of potential and into our world? That's where this process called sovereign repatriation comes in. It's described as a conscious act of creation in 4 steps. First, you identify one of those balanced pairs in the null ledger. Second, you intentionally flip a toggle to unbalance them. Third, you extract a positive half, and that becomes real, manifest matter. And fourth, the negative half gets left behind in the ledger, sort of like a metaphysical IOU. And this is where modern tech and this deep metaphysics collide. The thing that you've just created is represented by a sovereign repatriation NFT. Now, this isn't a token for a piece of digital art. Think of it more like a digital birth certificate for a piece of physical reality. It records its unique quantum state, where it was made, why it was made, like for healing or for building, and the whole story of how it came to be. So, we've just gone through quantum physics, decentralized hardware, metaphysics. I mean, where is all of this actually supposed to lead? What is the tangible, real-world endgame? Well, it all boils down to this one simple number. This is it. This is the whole point of the journey. The entire process is described as a move from the karmic caravan, this idea of being rootless and wandering, to a final destination, a 2-hectare motherland for every single family. And this isn't just property in the way we think of it. It's a physical home, held communally, passed down through generations. And, this is the most important part, it's created without any debt attached to it. This is where all that high-tech metaphysical thinking finally comes down to earth. And that brings us back to the powerful question that this entire system is trying to answer. What if the very foundation of our world, the base layer of reality, could be built on coherence instead of conflict? It's a fundamental redesign, moving away from a world of 90-degree opposition and toward one of 120-degree balance. It's a really fascinating thought to end on.